Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. And because it was such a positive hit last week, Tate Mathews and I are now in week 2 of our virtual/Zoom Sports Connection. Tate, I guess we must have been a hit.
Oh, big time. I got lots of positive comments, text, emails, snaps.
That's good to hear.
We're the Zoom brothers now.
I like that. That's a good nickname. We need some Zoom walk-up music. Hey, Tate, 2 chances this week to bring home state championships in football. Same situation that we were in last year. I don't know about you, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to come out with at least 1 state championship. And by the way, in football, we call it, in basketball, I know we always call it a gold ball. Is it referred that way in football too, as a gold ball? Because it is
100%. The gold ball, man. Bringing the gold ball home, silver ball. No shame in the silver ball either. But yes, you're exactly right. They are. They're known as the gold ball, and there's some places they got 10, some places got 15, some places that have 1, and so Brentwood has 1, which is pretty neat, going for their second, and Summit going for their first. So you're right. I think we get at least 1. Would love to get 2, and we were so close on getting. Golly, we've had 2 before with Ravenwood and Independence. Had we gotten the trifecta there, that would have been really something to talk about.
Well, and I appreciated. I saw where Tom Krieger put Williamson Strong out there on his tweet, having 3 games in the semis. So I was glad he recognized that having 3 in the semis was pretty special. Obviously, having 2 in the championship game is pretty darn special too, Tate.
Oh, yeah, he's well aware. He's a big fan of WCS, no doubt.
He is. We're fans of his too. We like to give him a hard time every once in a while, but
that's right.
Definitely fan of grilling like a villain, Tom Krieger.
He is king of the cheeseburger and chicken wing on the grill for sure.
Hey, Tate, we also have district basketball getting started this week. Now, we talked about the games that obviously cranked up. We'll talk a lot more about basketball in the upcoming weeks, but some games of interest, I thought, this week district-wise. You got Franklin-Brentwood, which it looks like that's going to be the 2 teams on the boys' side. Summit, depending on what happens with who plays and who doesn't play, they're going to be in the mix as well. But certainly Franklin and Brentwood will be near the top. Centennial Page, I think, is an intriguing matchup also. Independence Ravenwood, Summit Spring Hill, and then not a district game, but I'm so glad they play this Thursday. Nolensville and Fairview play, which I think is great for WCS.
Great matchups, and I tell you, I got to go over and spend a little time at the Centennial basketball tournament, Coach Jeremy Moore's tournament. I saw Ravenwood play Laverne. I think Ravenwood's got something to say about this district standings too. They're athletic, they're big, they can run, and I'm telling you, I think at halftime, Laverne had 9 points, 11 points, something like that. It was the only thing I don't like about Zoom is I don't have my boat hat or my glasses. It was boat race city squared, the Ravenwood Laverne game. All that to say, I think Ravenwood's going to have something to say about this.
And Independence, their boys also played pretty well so far. So as always, boys and girls both going to be a tough league this year, and looking forward to talking more hoops as the weeks progress. Obviously right now, it's all about football in terms of those 2 teams playing for a gold ball this Friday and Saturday.
That's right. That is priority number 1. We got a big weekend ahead of us.
You know what I liked, and I think, most people do this, not all, but most, but I liked that I saw on Twitter there that Summit was canceling their basketball game and moving it from Friday to Saturday based on the team being in the championship. That seems like a no-brainer, but sometimes people, when something seems like a no-brainer, they still don't come through on those kind of things. So I was glad to see that Summit's not only doing that, but also promoting that they're doing that, because again, plenty of time for basketball, plenty of time for wrestling. Right now, it's about trying to win that state championship Friday night as they, again, 2 years in a row, which is pretty impressive there for Coach Coleman and Old Sparty.
Yeah, this was the goal. They knew they wanted to get back and needed to get back. Unfinished business. Sometimes that thing is overused, a little corny, right? But I think it's very appropriate in this case. Unfinished business. They're back. They got somebody back last week for about, I don't know, 9.5 minutes of play. That was big. But yeah, and they're Mrs. Lamb gets it. Coach Kirby gets it. But the cool thing is as you know, Coach Fay's a lot like you were. He's the basketball coach. That's what he gets paid to do. But he's a school guy. He's a huge football fan. I guarantee you he didn't even think twice. And Coach Wild, there might not be a bigger high school football fan than Coach Wild. I guarantee you neither one of them thought twice about it.
Yeah, and Coach Wild's probably excited about somewhere between
Oh, he knows.
Cookville. There's some kind of quaint place to eat that's off the beaten path a little bit, but something he can put out on his personal Twitter. I'm sure he's excited about that too.
Well, I'm telling you right now, there's no doubt what he's going to say is Spanky's. He's correct. You can walk to Spanky's from the stadium, to and from. It's no doubt. I'm sure we'll be there before the game. Spanky's is the only answer. Char maybe a close second, but Spanky's is the answer.
Hey, let's talk about last week's game. Again, we had 3 teams playing in the semifinals, 2 come out on top. Let's start off with Brentwood at Bartlett. Final score 24-14. Brentwood comes out on top. Spencer Rich comes up with a big block punt for a touchdown after a 3-and-out to start the game. And that really seemed to get Brentwood rolling, which I think is important a lot of times on the road. The second possession for Bartlett, turnover on downs, a high snap on 4th down from the 15. So, they were driving, but again, Brentwood gets a stop. Bartlett shot themselves in the foot a little bit there. Then Granzow scores after a 50-yard drive. All of a sudden, they're up 14-0. And really, they didn't look back. Bartlett kept coming back. They'd score. Brentwood would come back and score again. So they kept them at bay. And really, those first few possessions, I think, had a lot to do with the outcome, Tate.
Well, yeah, I think Coach Crawford said as much to his team. They needed to start fast. They needed to start strong. And sometimes those Memphis teams, they get up. They're really tough to play. They're really good playing ahead, and not so much when they're behind. But, we talked about it last week. They're big offensive line, probably the biggest offensive line he's seen all year, or they've seen all year. Got a really good running back. And so to get up early on them, and then, that's the neat thing. You knew Brentwood probably had the edge offensively. And then you definitely thought they had the edge special teams wise, which, right there in the first quarter, you talk, special teams, turnovers, discipline. You knew Brentwood was going to be better there. And to get up 14-0, you're right. That was very big. And then, Cade Granzow, not a 7-touchdown game like he normally does, but had another great game and got the lead and made sure that they stayed that way. Huge win. So happy for the Brentwood Bruins.
Well, and then, Bartlett comes back and scores to make it 14-6. Spencer Rich, what's he do? He blocks the point after. It's 14-6. Brentwood gets another stop late in the half, and then they score right before the half to go up 21-6. And playing against Brentwood behind 21-6, that's not where you want to be. Just like Brentwood, not that they don't want to play from behind. They've shown they can play in a shootout as well. But when you've got Granzow back there with those methodical drives that they go on a lot of times, had to be a nightmare for Bartlett to be behind 21-6 and looking at Mr. Granzow over and over, especially in 3rd and short, running the ball.
Yeah, well, they were 9 for 14 on 3rd down conversions and also 1 for 1. 4th down wasn't there, but I'm sure he was at least half of those. And yeah, we've talked about that for 2 years now. That you don't want to get down to them because it's so hard to get them off the field because they got 4 downs to get 10 yards. And with him, he's going to get a couple. So, this is a really nice win. I know the Brentwood faithful know Bartlett's a good football team. So I think this is not Whitehaven being there or whatever this year. Doesn't matter. I don't think they would have been there this year anyways, because I think Bartlett was the best team to come out of there. Really good win. And cool to see Spencer Rich coming back and playing the way. That guy's got a great motor. I've mentioned them a lot, but all you got to, it doesn't take long to find him, to find 33 and Wilhelm. Those guys have high motors. They're always around the ball, and there he is making big plays. And senior, that's what you want to see in the semifinals, trying to make a trip to Cookville. Seniors making plays, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, give Bartlett credit. They didn't go away. They cut it to 21-14, get a big stop late in the third. Brentwood gets it all the way down to the 5-yard line. They turn it over on downs, and then it became sort of a defensive struggle. But Thomas, America's Got Talent Day, comes up with the 20. And did I say that? Is that the right show? Is that the right show that Thomas has been on?
Yes, the true viewers call it AGT, but yes, you got it.
Oh, okay.
Great show.
So, big field goal, which you think in the kicking game that Brentwood most games is going to have the advantage. A big 21-yard field goal with 5:10 left to make it 24-14. Nice to have that weapon in your arsenal also if you're Brentwood.
100%. To make that a 2-possession game that late, that was big, really big. For Bartlett's not built to come back, quickly. And to make that a 2-possession game, that was huge. And like we said, special teams, they thought they had to win the special teams, and they did.
Tate, statistically, as you look at that game, Bartlett ends up outgaining Brentwood 369 to 238. It's like about 130 yards difference there. And you look at the stats, and it's not a whole lot different. It seemed to be just made the right plays at the right time, in particular how that game started with that block punt. That was huge.
It was huge. And the fact that they wanted to take away the run, that's what, when you turn Bartlett on, pretty easy or pretty quickly, you got to stop the run. And so I'm sure that was the game plan. Coach Crawford's game plan was to take away the run. If they beat us with the pass, they beat us with the pass. And obviously they had 259 yards, but the scoreboard didn't reflect that. But, I think that was one of the telling things as well. The fact that Brentwood outrushed Bartlett, you knew chances were Brentwood was going to be successful. But that had to have been the game plan because they're really good at running the ball.
Semifinal number 2, Summit goes down to Paris and wins 35-21. And the first play from scrimmage, another game that early on sort of set the pace, which you really have to do when you're the road team. Brandon King, what's he do? First play from scrimmage, 66-yard touchdown. And then Summit was off and running, so to speak. And I thought as you look at, I know we talk a lot about Destin Wade, 394 yards of offense, which I think we take for granted a lot of times. Those are huge numbers. 1 passing touchdown, 221 yards, total of passing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 173 yards rushing. But really, I think about that defense. They've really stepped up. Obviously, we mentioned Trey Hunter a lot. Coach Melton's done a great job and continues to do a great job with that defense. But you take a guy like Jamarcus Johnson from Henry County, and this means a lot now. All-time leading rusher at Henry County, and they've had some guys who could run the ball. They hold him to 94 yards. Really, the Summit defense, to me, maybe was the difference in that game. I know they scored 35 points, but they really had to step up, especially stopping the run. I know 94 yards is a pretty good game still, but this guy, he's had a lot of games well over 94 yards.
Oh, yeah, well put. And that was the same thing. That was the game plan. Is Coach Coleman said it this weekend. Coach Melton and the defensive staff, they knew they had to shut down Jamarcus Johnson. They held him under 100 yards, which they felt like if they could do that, they would win. Summit's going to score points, right? And that was what was funny was the rushing total yardage for Summit was way, way more for Summit. Henry County, they passed for 300 yards, but that's okay because that's what they wanted. They wanted to take away the run, and they did. And so, that was the defense really, really played well. You're right. And you mentioned Coach Melton. I talked about this weekend. He does such a great job running the defense. He also, Coach Coleman's in there as well, but he also runs the weight room. And the thing that really stood out to me, you mentioned Brandon King, first play of the game, 66-yard touchdown. Destin had one over 50. A lot of big plays for scores. And what that tells me is, he's getting it done in that weight room too, and the speed and conditioning, because Henry County is an athletic team that can run, and we're breaking 50 yards, 40 yards, 60 yards. That was a big part of it too.
Well, and talking to Coach Coleman and Coach Melton, I had them on the coach show early in the year last year. It's pretty obvious that the respect that they have for one another, really, and we talked about it this way. Coach Melton is a head coach. He's the head coach of the defense. Coach Coleman obviously has input, but he's given him the reins of the defense. And, we had talked about, Coach Melton is a guy who's probably ready to take over his own team, but he's not going to go just anywhere. He loves it there at Summit. He believes in that program, what Coach Coleman's doing, and he appreciates that autonomy. It's going to take a pretty darn good job to get Coach Melton away from Summit High School.
No doubt about it. They're a really good team, and that's the cool thing. I think, I've always said that if it's the other way at Brentwood. Coach Crawford runs the defense, and Coach Finch has been the offense coordinator since he came back. I think that's the best recipe for high school football, right? You run one side of the ball, and then you go get you a really good coordinator on the other side, and history shows that's usually the best way to do it. And hey, I think that we need to mention too, the thing I thought really cool was about it. Destin had 24 rushes. He had 29 last week against Beach. I mean, pretty neat. He's a quarterback, but it's pretty neat, and how durable he's been. And I don't think any fumbles in there. It's just tough. I'd love to know what Oak Ridge is thinking all weekend long when they turn those last two films on, because they spread you out, and you got to account for those other guys. And then knowing that, if he's got to get it 20 times a game to get the win, we'll give it to him 20 times. And also every time he carries that ball, there's a chance he's going to break the long one. So pretty neat though. I think that, there's a lot of adjectives we use about that kid, but I don't think we use tough enough, because he's tough.
Obviously, we're focused on getting us a state championship. Summit is this weekend, but I don't see how Destin Wade's not Mr. Football next week. I think he's going to have a pretty good few days. I think he'll be touching that gold ball Friday night, and then I think next Monday. I think he probably, or is that next Tuesday? Anyway,
I think it's Tuesday.
I don't see how that guy's not Mr. Football. And I'm biased. I'll admittedly say that, but come on, man, what a year he's had. And I know if he's not, so don't count. I get all that, but his numbers were pretty darn good during the season as well, only playing 6 or 7 games.
That's right. If anything hurts him, it'll be the 6-game regular season, 7-game regular season. But the votes were taken before the playoffs started. If they weren't, it's 100% over. But you're right, and I feel like the people that were in that room felt like that was understood about him, and you're not supposed to be penalized for lack of games this year. So it's not like he was out with an injury. They didn't play him. So I think you're right. He's got a chance to have a pretty big week next 10 days.
Henry takes that 14-7 lead. Again, I think it's just a sign of Summit's maturity. And they kind of, they've been there before. What do? They score 21 straight points. They go up 28-14 halfway through the fourth quarter. Once they got up 14, you could just pretty much write it off then. They weren't going to lose up 28-14 halfway through the third.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, and I feel like talking to Coach Coleman, I feel like he feels like they left some points on the board too. So think about that. But yeah, once they got up, they are, they're going to score, right? So you get up that many, you got to feel really good about it.
Yeah, 6 and 7 minutes left. I think I said halfway through the third, halfway through the fourth is what I meant. You're down to Summit, 6 or 7 minutes left, 14 points. Number one, you have to score on that defense, and you also have to get that offense off the field and out of the end zone, which at that point, not happening.
That's right. And you're also forced to do some things that normally you wouldn't want to do. You're going to have to gamble a little bit, and odds are he's going to hit you with a big play.
Our final semifinal game, this one didn't go quite as well. Nolensville 21, Elizabethton 56. It's the second straight year Nolensville has their run stopped in the semifinals, both times to Elizabethton. Last year on the road, this year at home. And I'll tell you, I probably underestimated them a little bit. Two Mr. Football finalists from the same school, and they proved why. Bryson Hollins, Troy Parker Hughes, big games for Elizabethton. No shame in losing that game for Nolensville. And really, it was, again, the start of the game. Elizabethton's on the road. The first four drives, they score. Elizabethton does. Nolensville's first drive, they get stopped. People want to talk about the controversial intentional grounding call. That's part of the game. They get stopped. Elizabethton gets the ball back. They score again. Now Nolensville's down 14-0. They drive it deep, but an interception. Gallardi, that's not something he does a lot, but he throws a pick. Elizabethton scores again. Down 21-0 that early. You would think there would be time, but with that offense that Elizabethton has, it was an uphill battle the rest of the night for Nolensville. They didn't give up. They kept plugging, but down 21-0, for all intents and purposes, it was pretty much over at that point.
Yeah, it was. I went to that game, and, I know it doesn't make it any easier, but no shame in that loss. Elizabethton, really good. You mentioned the intentional grounding. Maybe I don't understand the rules quite right on high school, but I didn't get it. I thought it was a bad call. But you're going to get some of those, but that's not what decided the game. It didn't help, but it didn't decide the game. Elizabethton's really good. You can go ahead and book it. They're going to win the state championship on Saturday. You got beat by the best team in 4A in the state. That's just all there is to it. But you're right. They couldn't get down. They did get down early, and then they went down and got that score. And the one they gave up right before halftime, they had them stopped. Coach Derrick called timeout, which I don't blame him on. And I was with some coaches who agreed with it. You're trying to get the ball back. You had a little momentum go. And then the one they got right before half, that was the backbreaker. But, again, Elizabethton's the best team in 4A. There's no doubt about it. They all fought, played hard. I tell you the one I don't know who's going to win for Mr. Football in 4A, but the Parker Hughes, he was a running back, and he's the best safety I've seen all year. That guy's a dang football player. So, it's tough. 2 years in a row, but 2 years in a row, you ran into the best team in the semifinals.
Gallardi, obviously a great career, 14 for 22, 179 yards and a touchdown. His favorite target, at least on this particular night, Parker Price, 7 receptions, 83 yards and a touchdown. Samson Johnson, the touchdown maker, 73 tough rushing yards and a touchdown. Nolensville ends up 8-4. And again, like you said, going to lose to the state champion 2 years in a row. No shame in that at all. The thing I loved about Gallardi, I thought, man, it's great to see that. Obviously, he wasn't coaxed into it. He gets interviewed after the game, and they talk about Nolensville and what do you say about how great a program it's been and how's it gotten here that quickly? And he gave just this unbelievable praise to the coaching staff, which I thought was pretty darn neat and pretty mature of that young man to do that. That doesn't always happen, especially right after a game. I thought that was really neat. I don't know if you saw his comments.
I did not, but the kid's a leader, that. And so it doesn't surprise me. And the thing that's easy to forget after a game like that is you beat, a lot of people thought Tullahoma was the best team in the state, and so, to even be there was huge with the hurdles they had to get over this year and then get over that great Tullahoma team. There's no shame in it, but and you know what I can't wait for? I asked Coach Derrick, I'm going to have this for next week's show. I think I know he's over 20, maybe over 25. I think Samson might be at 30 total touchdowns, and He's got 2 more years left. Hey, and forgot to talk about that, but Cade Granzow, going back to Brentwood real quick. Cade Granzow's 2 touchdowns Friday night. That tied him with Garcia for 102 total touchdowns.
Wow.
Well, if he can get a touchdown next week or 2, think about that. I don't know. That's got to be the highest all time, right? We need to do a little research on that. But he's got a chance to have the most total touchdowns anybody in WCS history. Big.
Yeah, that's saying something. All right, let's talk about these championship games, Tate. Friday night, Summit at 7 p.m. coming in at 13-1. We'll take on Oak Ridge, who's a number 2 seed. They come in at 11-3, wins over Soddy Daisy. Number 1 seed, Ray County. Number 1 seed, Knoxville West. And by the way, they avenged an earlier loss to them. I think it was 22-7. They win that game 31-28. And then South Doyle last week. They were 2-3. They've won 9 straight. So Oak Ridge obviously comes in, as anybody does. You know, if you're in a championship game, you're trending in the right direction. But this Oak Ridge team, they've got a big task taking on Summit. They really do.
They got a big task taking on Summit, but they're a tradition-rich program. You know, there was a time probably when we were in high school, if you mentioned who are the top 3 or 4 programs in the state, Oak Ridge is one of the one who's mentioned. Joe Gaddis is the head coach, who kind of neat. He was at Henry County. I think he coached. I think he was the coach after Coach Webb, or maybe before, one of the 2. But there's a Henry County connection there too, which Summit just beat them. But yeah, I think most people thought West was going to come out of the East. So definitely the underdog. And I think Summit's okay with that. I think this is a mature Summit team. You mentioned they've been here last year. I don't think you can put a price tag on that. But, the fact that the teams that you just mentioned that they beat, they're obviously very athletic. But I don't think they were the number 1 team coming out of the East.
Agreed. What does Summit have to do? I know you've done a little research on Oak Ridge. What are going to be some keys there in that game for Summit?
Well, I think the number 1 thing for Summit is if they don't hurt themselves, if they don't kill their own drives, I don't think there's anybody when they're healthy that can stop them. Go look at the last 13 games, whatever it is, 12 games. They score a lot of points, right? So if they don't turn the ball over, which Destin hasn't been throwing interceptions, they're not fumbling the ball. If they don't kill themselves with penalties, I think they'll be okay because they're going to score points. They got too many people, playmakers that can do that. We talked about Keaton came back. The defense was already playing very well. I don't think you need Keaton on offense, right? I think we've shown that. So the fact that he's going to come back, I think he played 10 minutes. You got to think he'll probably be able to play 20 next week. And so that just made the defense better. But really, it's that. Just don't hurt yourself. Don't turn the ball over, and no stupid penalties on offense. And I really think, don't give up kicks. I think they'll be good. Give the ball to number 1 a lot.
Yeah, I guarantee you that's happening. Championship game number 2 will be Saturday night. It'll be the final game. Brentwood comes in as number 1 seed, 11-3, taking on another number 1 Oakland, 14-0. And by the way, Tate, this week's gym, when Brentwood won the state championship in 2002, they took on another Murfreesboro powerhouse. A lot of people didn't think they could come out on top in that game. They do. They win 10-7 over a Gary Rankin Riverdale team. So even though, some may think that this seems insurmountable, you take a look at Oakland's dominance. It included a win over Brentwood, but again, that was a late ad. No time to prepare for Brentwood, but that game was 37-0 October 7th. And their closest game of the year, 36-20 at Warren County. In the playoffs, big wins over Rossview, Mount Juliet, Riverdale, and 49-7 last week against Maryville, which obviously gets your attention. What can Brentwood – now, this is just me. I think the fact that they already played and it was a blowout might actually help Brentwood because those Oakland kids, no matter what the coach says, they know they've won 37-0. Let Brentwood hang around early, and that could work in their favor, I think.
I do too. I don't even know if you show them the film again if you're the Oakland coaching staff, right? Because kids you can't fool them. But you mentioned it. It's not an excuse, but that is a tough game to prepare for in 2 days, really 1 day. So they had no practice on it. They don't, to my knowledge, I don't think they played anybody else all year long that runs the wing T. They dang sure hadn't before they played. I mean, that is a tough off. That's a lot of the reason why a lot of people run it, because you don't see it as much anymore, and it's tough to prepare for. So obviously they've had plenty of time to prepare for this one. They get an extra day with it being Saturday. They've seen it. But what does Brentwood have to do, in my opinion? You mentioned the closest game was Warren County. That was against a running quarterback, C.J. Taylor, Mr. Football finalist. And he's different than Cade, but Cade is a quarterback that can run too, right? Got a better arm than him. So, but I think the number one thing is Brentwood has to make the most of their offensive touches. It's a lot like Summit, Oakland is. Oakland's going to score points. So you're going to have to score probably on 50% of your offensive possessions. And also that keeps them off the field. But I think that's what you have to do. Sounds like the defense is pretty healthy. Rich, those guys we mentioned, Rich, Wilhelm, the linebackers are going to have big days. House out on the corner because they've got a couple of receivers in Horton, and then they'll put the Patterson kid out there too who can make plays. But, House probably going to have to take Horton on his own, and then you have to have those other 10 to try to stop that run. But, I think it'll be a much better game this time. But those are the keys. They're going to have to play really, really well. But I think they can and will.
Got to hang around early. And, Brentwood's got this, obviously, with passing of Coach Crawford's mom, Miss Pat. They seem to have this thing going on right now, this playing for one another, playing for Coach. I'm telling you, Brentwood's going to show up for this game. They are.
I think so, too.
I really believe that.
They're going to have to find a way to get Merrill and Walton the ball. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to have to make some plays. They're going to have to match big play for big play because there's going to be big plays. But I think they can. It's going to be a totally different game this time. Don't know if it'll be enough, but we'll find out. And the neat thing is 5A and 6A, they're the marquee games, both Friday and Saturday night. No reason why you can't get there. It's going to be special.
It's going to be special. Looking forward to it. Let's talk about Pick'em's, Tate. We all went 2-1 last week in a different way. I don't want to sell Dr. Qualls out. He was 2-1, and the game he lost, he actually picked Henry County over.
Wow.
He picked Henry and Elizabethton. That's got to be the first time Dr. Qualls has picked against WCS 2 out of 3 games. So the Qualls is going to be last. He's got 53 wins. The fans have 56 wins. They're going to be third. You and I have 59 wins, and let's just see how the picks go this week. So I'm going to start off. Friday night, Summit versus Oak Ridge. I don't think it's going to be close, Tate. I think it's going to be minimum 2 touchdown win for Old Sparty. I think they win going away, bringing a gold ball home to Summit High School.
Well, I think you're right. Now, are you saying 2 touchdowns or double digits? You're saying 14 or more. 14
or more is my prediction.
I like it. I think you're right. I'm going to go 1 more. Things did not go well last year for the Summit Spartans in the state championship game versus Knoxville Central. I think it's the same thing this year, but flipped. I think Summit gets away from them. I think they get away from them early, and this thing could be really, really ugly. I think there's a chance that we don't see the starters finish this game.
Wow.
Spartans roll.
Wish you had your hat and your glasses.
I know, no doubt. Is there any way can Lance computer image that in there?
If anybody can do it, Lance can throw a picture of you up there on the screen, which he's probably doing as we speak. All right, final game, Tate, and this could be maybe the difference maker. Brentwood versus Oakland. Your pick.
Okay. Well, I'm playing to win. I'm a competitor. I hope I'm wrong. I think Oakland is the best team in the state. I think they're the best private school team. I think they're the best public school team. Heck, they're better than Vanderbilt. Might be better than MTSU. Might be better than Tennessee. The only team that might be better than Oakland this year is the Tennessee Titans. So I hope I'm wrong. Have not been back to the state championship game since 2002. I think if you hear Coach Crawford talk about Brentwood High, that's part of what he loves about it. That's not a school that's going to go every single year. And the fact that they are back in this championship game again since 2002, I think is so cool. I promise you, he is not taking it for granted. But I think Oakland's the best school in the state, best team in the state. I'm going the Patriots.
I agree with everything you said, except the outcome. We don't play games on paper.
That's right.
This is one of those stories that you write about later and say, wow, it doesn't make any sense. They lost 37-0. Oakland's dominant. Oakland's this, Oakland's that. I'm not playing for a tie, Mr. Mathews. I'm going Brentwood Bruins to win the 6A state championship.
Well, I was going to say we need to have a tiebreaker, but we don't need one now. There will be a clear-cut champion next week. And you know what? I hope it's you.
I hope it is too, Mr. Mathews. Tate, thank you for joining us for week 2 of our virtual Zoom Sports Connection. Looking forward to being there live and in person with Lance and Heather and Creed again. But for now, we're going the Zoom route. Hopefully it's worked out well for you too, Mr. Mathews.
Hey, today was a win. I got a backdrop. I'm not on a phone. It was already a better performance from last week. I apologize for that, but hey, sometimes you just got you get back in the film room, you study, and you get better, and that's what Brentwood's going to do. They're already studying that Oakland film and getting better. And make sure you get up there. Hey, Cookeville's an easy drive. Like I said, we already told you where to eat. Get up there, support these teams. It's going to be a cool environment.
No doubt about it. Thank you for joining us again this week. Tate and I'll see you next time on Sports Connection.